Happy 2025, gentlemen. Happy 2025, Sabres fans. If there was ever a signal, an omen that this year was going to be any better than the last, I don't think we're off to a very good start.
Nope, not at all. Arguably a terrible start. Not arguably. There's nothing even left to say anymore. Why are we even recording right now, dude?
I, the vibes were, they were pretty high last episode,
They
and
were too high last
they
episode.
really shouldn't have been. But I think that speaks
No,
to just how, you know, just how bad it really has been. That just three consecutive wins, the latter of which they shouldn't have even won. They won 4-2 in a game where they had 16 shots on goal. And we probably should have guessed Dallas, Colorado, Vegas up next on the schedule. It probably wasn't going to go well. And it didn't go very well.
pretty much everything we said last episode, you could just throw out the window. So if you're behind on episodes, don't go and listen to that episode because all the players we talked up have done jack since that episode.
Yeah. All the work you guys poured into last time. Wasn't it like one of the longest
It was
episodes? It
one of
was
the
like
longest episodes we did.
yeah.
And
Don't watch that. Don't watch
don't
that Yap
don't
Fest.
don't listen, but actually go listen to it because you know I know Christian probably doesn't want to because he wasn't in attendance, but
Hey, I did listen. I gave it a listen.
yes, you did.
Spotify does that stupid thing though where it's like you're listening and then you stop and then you like put your phone down or like refresh the app. And then I plugged it into my car and it like sent me back like 20 minutes. And I'm re-listening to the stuff I already listened to. And I'm just like, wait a second. They already talked about Ovi coming back and all this stuff. And I had to like keep skipping forward until I found a part I didn't already listen
I
to.
have never had that issue with Spotify, so I don't
I've
know
had
what
it
the hell you're
multiple
doing.
times. I've had it happen to me multiple
I
times.
don't see the
Never.
issue with that problem. That just means you get to listen to us more.
Yeah, we're
True.
we're bumping our own numbers up.
Exactly. Exactly. Welcome back to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah,
I'm Christian.
And MJP.
and as always, we will be talking to you about some Buffalo Sabres hockey and even a little bit of the wider NHL. 2025 has started with a bang, and I mean that in the most ironic, sarcastic way possible because the Sabres are currently winless this year after winning three straight to almost close out 2024. They lost to the Dallas Stars on New Year's Eve and have followed that up with two consecutive horrendous losses to the Colorado Avalanche and Vegas Golden Knights. So we're going to discuss those a little bit. We'll touch on some topics around the team, the only positive one of which is Jason Zucker, who is the only player on the roster currently killing it. But besides that, we'll have some downward trends to discuss. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about the Amerks, who are killing it still. The World Juniors, which is set to wrap up tonight, as a matter of fact. And then some wider NHL topics, including the trade rumors of our favorite Swedish center in Vancouver becoming more and more real as we go. And I don't think it's really a hypothetical conversation anymore. Elias Pettersson does seem to be up for grabs. So, the Buffalo Sabres. What comes to mind when I say those words right now?
Dead last.
Uninspiring,
Ass.
pressing,
Super ass. Um, God, what?
pathetic,
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a really good one.
disgrace.
Mm, any more adjectives we got in the bank?
I'm sure we
Uh,
could go for a long time.
mega ass. Just awful. Just so awful. I never thought we'd be back in last place again, but here we are.
I'm going to ask you this. I mean, we all know the answer because we were talking in depth about it. How did you react to that Colorado collapse? Anger, frustration, yielding rage, unyielding rage, actually.
Honestly, it was more of an expectation. I was watching the game in my room on the TV, and it was they went up 5-3, and then as soon as Colorado got the 5-4 goal, I shut the TV off and I was like, I'm not gonna let them ruin my night. I'm about to go to bed. Shut it off. And then I just went on my phone and I checked the score through the NHL app. And I was like, okay, 5-4 with 20 seconds left. What could go wrong? Refresh the app to 7 seconds and tie game. And I knew it was happening.
That's the worst part is like we all knew it was coming. Like I had a feeling that even though we were up, we were gonna blow it, especially against freaking Avalanche. And I started to get hope and hope and hope, and I was feeling good about it because we were about to close out a game, even though we almost blew it. And then they scored with 6 seconds left. I was watching with my girlfriend, threw a lot of expletives out there, and then they scored the overtime goal, and I threw her family's TV remote against the couch and stormed out of the room and left.
Wasn't that like a Thursday night? You made her sit
Yes.
through that
Well,
at
we didn't watch
like
the whole game.
11:30.
We did not-
You basically watched the whole game. The whole game was that sequence.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we got back from going out, turned it on, and I was like, "Oh, this is going good." But yeah, it was kind of ruined the night. It was a good night other than that.
It would have been funnier if instead of you taking the remote and throwing it into the couch, you just beamed it at the TV as hard as you can, like you're throwing a Wii remote that's not strapped to your wrist.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea for a product, especially for any Buffalo, any sports fan, really. TV
Yeah,
remotes that come with the wrist things to keep it that way you can, simulate the action of throwing the remote at the television, but you got that safety net.
Or like a kicking net to put in front of your TV. It's like at the end of the game, it just drops down after a loss.
Or raises up like in the NFL.
There's just a punching bag that drops down.
I have to say, I just kind of stared blankly like this, and I'm talking from the expectation they were going to win that game. Like I even when Colorado made it 5-4, and there was 2:30 left on the clock, did not think they were going to blow it, and that face-off was with 20 seconds left, right? 20 seconds, and man, just watching that happen in front of my eyes, there is a time and a time and a place where that probably would have ruined my night, set me off, and it I don't know, it didn't strike a chord at all, and it's not even, I don't want to be like, oh, it was predictable. It's like, no, it just kind of happened, and it's like par for the course. I was joking about this. That Colorado game, is that a top 3 worst loss of the season?
It's honestly it's tragic that I even have to think if it is or not. And that was a bad loss.
I was brainstorming. I think there are 4 awful losses this season. You got the first Colorado game,
That's definitely number one.
the Canadiens blowout,
Yeah, that's bad.
and you've got this Colorado game as a contender. But is that overtime loss to Detroit at home worse?
Uh
I mean, considering we had a player literally score a hat trick at this game, and we completely ruined, like, that night should have been about him, and instead it turned into blowing the game.
exactly.
I feel like it might be worse, but it's definitely close.
I would give the edge, but it's still the Avalanche, and it's almost like given you blew a 4-0 lead like 2 months earlier, that it's almost not a surprise that it happened again, and given Detroit was, and I mean, I guess maybe not anymore since they've rattled off 4 straight, but one of the worst offenses in hockey, and you let in 6 goal. I don't know. Just It's the fact that it's a conversation. You can make the argument for either way. It just doesn't. It didn't hit. It didn't really anger me, frustrate me, anything. It's just another game in this season.
Hmm. Isn't it kind of funny how we have to even have these conversations? This shouldn't be happening. Just rebuild after like again, it's just this has got to be like the odds of this happening. The bad luck is just unbelievable.
And talking about this road trip, honestly, as a whole, the Dallas loss wasn't horrible. Really wasn't. They got outplayed. It was another game where their offense got stifled. It was very similar to the Vegas game last night. They were in the third period, tied the game, but a brutal turnover by Jack Quinn, a gorgeous goal by Wyatt Johnston over Luukkonen's shoulder. Dallas gets the lead, holds on to it. That's how the Sabres end their year. And then we head over to the Colorado debacle where why don't we touch on Zach Benson for a moment? What did you guys think about the the fourth Buffalo goal? The fourth goal where Zach Benson gets pushed into Scott Wedgwood, the goaltender, kind of pushes his leg inwards, opposite to where his body wanted to stand. Wedgwood goes down, is rolling around in pain for a few seconds. In those few seconds, Zach Benson regains the puck, wraps it around and into the net.
I mean, it's a good goal. I 100% genuinely believe it is a good goal. The fact that the refs didn't blow the whistle is kind of astounding to me because they probably should have, but they didn't, and you don't have a defense because their own player pushed him into the net. So it's like, okay, it could have been 50-50 if they blew the whistle or not, and they didn't, and it's a goal. And it sucks for Wedgwood, but he could blame his teammate for that.
I think Avs fans are most upset that he celebrated after the goal.
Oh, give me a break.
I
Charmin Ultra Soft.
I
Jesus.
kind of get it, but at the same
Jesus.
time,
I don't know, man. I think it's funny how the conversation went from, oh, he injured our goaltender to, oh, he celebrated after scoring. It's like they were looking anyway to project their anger onto Benson somehow and settled on the fact he had the most basic hockey celly of all time.
I think you still won the game. Shut up. Just shut your mouth. Take your 2 points and get out of here. Congratulations. You own the Sabres. Do you see that post that they made after the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, get in line. You're like 10th in line.
If
Shut
my
up.
franchise won a Stanley Cup within the last 5 years, and I have to brag about the fact that I had to take the most poverty franchise in the sport to overtime and take a victory lap on that, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing here?
We finally got some hate DMs from some Avs fans.
I know we
right?
did. Avs fans were all they're the biggest babies in the world. I cannot believe that some of them wanted to run Benson. It's just totally immature stuff, and I don't know.
Then I saw some of them upset that obviously Clifton came in and defended him because Benson wasn't looking and the guy was going after him.
Yeah.
And then people are like, "Oh, Benson can't stick up for himself. He can't do all this." You know nothing about Benson's game if you think that.
Or the fact that they, you go to the comments section and they were every single Avs fan was like the Sabres needed all the refs' help to win when the next shift Zach Benson got cross-checked in the neck off the draw, and then Kel McCarr goes on to
a diving board
get tripped
by
Dylan Cousins' one hand, and they would go on to score on the ensuing power play. So that Colorado Avalanche have quickly climbed up the rankings of teams on my shit list. So, I think the Broncos are winning right now. I need the Bills to absolutely demoralize that entire state in the divisional round.
Even Rob Ray said he's starting to hate that team.
Yeah, and everyone took it the wrong way and was
Yeah.
posting about it. Like, oh, Robert hates the Sabres. Like, no, dummy. He
I
was
mean, he
talking about the
does.
other
Let's be
team.
honest. He probably
Yeah,
does.
but we
Yeah,
do
but he was
too.
talking
We
about
do
the
too.
He
Avalanche.
Come on.
sounded so done last night as well.
Yeah, what? He's been doing like between the bench color for this team since what, 2007?
I
I think the
think,
President's
yeah,
Trophy year was his first year.
I think it was, yeah. He, yeah, funny
You know,
stuff.
I feel bad for Brian Duff. Oh my God, that guy's probably ready to throw himself off the Peace Bridge at this point.
I don't think he's covered a playoff season period.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, at least, I think Dunleavy joined in like 2014. So, I mean, it's been 10 plus years for him now, but still, I think Duff joined around 2012. It's been bad. It's bad for a lot of people.
I mean, not to get too off on a tangent here, but like the Broncos look kind of good. I'm kind of scared to play them in the first round if they come around. Not to get
I,
into like the BST podcast type of statistics, but like they look good. They're this is not going to be like the Steelers
I'm
last
not
year.
afraid. They are 1-7 against winning teams.
Fair enough. Okay, so they're like Miami of the West.
Exactly.
I'd rather play them than Miami or the Bengals. So,
True, yeah.
I mean,
Miami, you've beaten
my,
them so many times, you feel like it's a numbers game.
Miami sucks in cold weather games, but we've like barely beaten them this year. So, you don't want a divisional game. So, I'm fine with Broncos.
This is how we're trying to fill time here, you know? We don't got much to talk about. We're just trying to, do whatever we can.
I mean, once the Bills are done, we're
Oh my
screwed.
God. We're the only, yeah, Jesus.
And then it's the Bandits, who are
We
still
gotta
undefeated. Only undefeated team left, I believe.
JP, I love the Bandits, man, but it's like who like I give a
Wow.
shit, but like the rest of the nation.
Hey, jump on the wagon.
Okay.
All
No,
right,
I've been on the wagon. I love the Bandits, but it's like you're playing teams that can't sell out like arena football leagues. Like, how much does it matter at the end of the day?
it matters to Buffalo.
Okay.
That's what
You
matters.
know what? You're right. It does.
It's the
And
only winning
the
team in the
sellouts,
city of Buffalo.
the
Yeah,
sellouts do show that. So you are right. It does matter
yeah.
to us.
I could bring it back quick. The thing is that like the Avalanche game, I felt like, I mean, obviously they blew it. They actually played a pretty good game. I mean, their offense was
That
clicking.
too,
Like,
like that's the worst part. Like
yeah,
You just don't know how to win.
Lindy's quote after the game was literally, "We played a hell of a game," and nobody got mad because it was true. They did. They literally did. And I'm sorry. Like I know myself, I've become a lot of the, and not as of late because there's really nothing. I mean, I guess we did talk about it an episode or two ago, but like Lukanen was garbage that game. I thought of the last 11 shots he faced, 5 went in the net.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
I mean, the Cal McCarr one, that's a dirty goal, but at the same time, Lukanen was squared up. It was him versus McCarr, and he just lost. What was the second goal? Oh, right, it got like poked through like the underside of his body. That was a bad one. The third one was the 5-on-3 goal. So like, but it's not like Rantanen got all of that shot. But okay, fine, it's a 5-on-3 goal. The fourth one was the Kel McCarr bullet. Like I'm not gonna give him much slack on that. Uh, and then the fifth one, sure, it was Lekanen, right? Or no, it was Drouin. I guess he's uncovered in the slot. But that's a save he can still make. And it's not that he should have saved all of them. You just needed one of those saves. And then, Devin Taves is no breakaway specialist. And it wasn't even all he did was just kind of drag Lukanen across the crease and shoot blocker side, and that was the game. You needed one save. That's all you needed. You needed one save from your starting goaltender. Um, and you like I said, like your team played pretty well. Probably played like 2.5 periods of really good hockey, and then it just all fell apart.
This team, like all around, just not to get into like made up statistics or anything, but they have like negative clutch gene, dude. They have no clutch to their game whatsoever. It's just complete meltdown after complete meltdown after complete melt. It's like the Jets and the Bears together. It's like one of them has just been terrible for so long, the other one just loses in amazing fashion. It's just It's awful to watch, and you see it coming too. You could just like call it. You could like if you're watching the game with like a friend, you could just joke about it. Be like, "Oh, here comes a collapse," and then sure enough, it gets scored on 3 times in the last like 5 minutes, or something else crazy happens. They blow a 4-0 lead in regulation. They don't get a point out of a game, and when does it
You just
end?
you knew once they scored that goal with 6 seconds left that there's no chance they're winning that overtime because we have talked about, I mean, this is going into last year, how a ton of the players are just in their heads. And it seems like they don't have a short memory. Like they sit on this stuff. They've talked about how they get nervous and towards the end of the game stuff. Like they were checked out after that. Like they were probably in shock. And then it sucks because Tage had an awful turnover to end the game. Awful turnover. But other than that, what he had 3 assists that game. Like Zucker had 4 points that game. Like it completely makes everybody forget about that they actually played good. Like Tage had a really good game, but it doesn't even matter because he had a bad turnover to end the game.
Yeah, I mean, you see, Bowen Byram gets a goal in his return to Colorado, which was awesome. And yeah, I mean, yeah, Jason Zucker obviously having the game of his Sabres career so far. The power play looked good. Everything was sort of clicking. And, Colorado's just a team that all season has gotten down late or gotten down early, come back late, and
Dude,
it
they're
just
so
fell
fast,
apart.
man. They got like watching McKinnon
Dude,
and
McKinnon
Rantanen
played like the
skate.
whole game. It's kind of
I know,
annoying.
dude.
I
They
swear
are so fast.
they
It's
were
unbelievable.
well, yeah, they're a fast team, but like they were line matching. I think McKinnon against two lines. He was all over the Kulik line, and then they still had him out there against the Thompson Cousin Zucker line.
It's insane, actual insanity. But just when does it end, man?
Speaking of Zach Benson,
When does it end?
do we want to talk about him not playing the last 9:38 of that game?
Yeah, and he's one of the best defensive forwards of the game. Like, what's the decision there? What are you doing? Because he's young? It's working. I don't understand. Like, even the coaching just baffles me. And I hate to shit on Lindy, but it's like, buddy, it's like you're not having a great start to your second tenure here. It's like you gonna make it through next season? Because there's no way he's getting past the next 2 years. He was already contemplating retiring. I think he's at least done in a coaching role, if not by the end of the season, at the end of next season. But who are you going to replace him with? Seth Appert? He's already shown to be an absolute gem. Just top to bottom, it's just terrible. It's awful.
I don't know how that conversation got to coach. Well, I mean, I know how that conversation got to coaching and Seth Appert and whatnot, but about like about Benson not playing, like the main counter argument is, oh, like he was protecting Benson because yeah, he got cross checked in the neck on the next shift, but I don't know. I think that makes less sense because he played two or three more shifts in that third period, and then you sit him the last 10. Like, when is Colorado more likely to take a penalty? The first 10 minutes of the period or the last 10 minutes of the period? So I feel like either way, like, it didn't make any sense. Like, if he sat him for the rest of the period, fine. But to play him the next few shifts and then take him out, I don't know. Baffling decision. Benson was feeling it all game, and just I don't know. Even like the empty net situation, like just to put him out there, and I think he would, because it was Beckman. Well, it was a few guy
We had a lot of
Duran in the
chances at
slot.
it.
Well, you had a
Yeah.
lot of chances at it, but I'm saying like all three forwards got caught high. Maybe
Yeah.
Zach Benson would have dropped low to cover the slot. I don't know. Just frustrating, bad in-game management, bad decisions, bad just everything, man. Just
And don't forget, someone took a timeout with 20 seconds left, and that was the Sabres. And then we had that blown coverage. Like,
it's like, how do you not
I,
like? Are you not talking about? I mean, my guess is they were probably like cover the point
yeah,
because that's what they did. They had
I
three
look,
high.
I am a McDermott lover, but that is like prime Sean McDermott. Takes a penalty, takes a timeout, and then we still somehow blow the game.
And they
Like
took
that is
off.
just Buffalo right there.
Well, and before he took the timeout, it was Cousins, Tuck, and who was the third? He took somebody off to put Malenstein out there. And man, I don't know. It's just questionable stuff like that. Like how do you not have a plan for that? And also, like, you took the timeout and they had Dylan Cousins take the draw on his offside.
Yeah, he's been actually good with faceoffs recently, but not. You don't put someone with the game on the line on their offside to take a faceoff.
Yeah. Crazy timeout to take and then immediately blow it. They're probably just discussing what card game they were going to play on the plane ride back to Buffalo or to Vegas or whatever. But are you surprised? Are you really surprised that this happened at all?
I little like a little bit. Like I said, like
I'm not
I kind
at
of
all.
expected them just to win that one. And I was also like if Colorado came back, like just the way like 20 seconds left, you take the timeout. Man, like I'm a little surprised that it shook out like that. That like everything that could have gone wrong, like the the players that were thrown out there blew their coverage. The coaching who took the timeouts blew their
Assignment.
assignment, blew whatever they were trying to tell the players to do, and your goaltender didn't come up with a big save. And in the minutes proceeding, you missed the empty net 4 or 5 times. Like everything went wrong leading up to that, and that doesn't even touch on getting to overtime and Tage Thompson just getting pickpocketed so clean. Like I know it's Devin Taves, but still, and even Owen Power like making a bad read, going deep into the zone, expecting Thompson to shovel it down there, and just leaving a wide open lane. You know, Thompson's the last man back, and he's gassed. Just it's like you said, zero clutch gene, zero
Yeah.
awareness, zero just anything resembling that clutch factor.
But they've won games in the situations where they have zero clutch too. Like the first Dallas game at home, I was in attendance for that game. It's what's the score? 4-0 or something? And they or 3-0. I can't remember the score specifically, but Dallas pulls the goalie with like 5 minutes left. They get scored on twice. They can't get the puck out of those. They can't have possession for more than 10 seconds. They just let Dallas possess the puck for like 5 minutes. They got scored on twice. Honestly, if I was an opposing coach, I wouldn't just play a goalie if I'm down like 3-4 goals in the third period.
Well, guess what? They switched goalies again, and the Sabres
And they lost.
We didn't even
And they
mention
lost.
They've
that.
done it again. It
Yeah.
happened again.
Yeah, they're just so passive with the 6-on-5.
And they've always been that way, though. I feel like that's been going back years. That they've even like Granado. It's like the park the bus stuff.
Yeah.
It
Well,
just
it's like if you're gonna be passive, you know, like collapse. Like
Mhm.
either go out, like don't give them any sort. Like if you're gonna be passive, you know, you take away that Drouin shot. You know, you let Cale Makar and McKinnon fire it from far out because they got to fire it through 10 bodies just to hit the net, and then you got the 6'3" goaltender waiting there.
Yep. It sucks because, like, if you didn't watch the game and you just saw, oh, the Sabres lost in overtime to the Colorado Avalanche, you'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. But like, that's if you actually like looked into what happened, it's the complete opposite.
Real ones are just happy we got an OT point out of it.
Well, I was
Right
gonna
here.
mention that we did get
Me.
a point. I mean, we did
guys,
get a
we're
point.
only in 30th place. We have the opportunity to do the funniest thing of all time.
We are not on a 4-game losing streak. We're on a winless streak right
Like
now.
Jonas said in years past, droughts get broken in very, very unconventional ways.
This would be the most unconventional way I've ever seen.
Could a 20-game win streak be in play? Well, let's try and win 4 first, actually. Can we get a 4-game winning streak going?
Dude, I know. Like they can't get over. They just can never get over that hump. Dude, it has haunted me since 2016 because I still remember that the 14-15 tanking Sabres won 4 games in a row once, and since then the entire franchise has done it 3 times. The 10-game win streak, and they did it twice in 22-23. That's it.
That's
It's the only
crazy,
times
actually.
it has happened.
All those
that-
years of the Eichel, and you couldn't win more than 4 games in a row. Oh, you couldn't win 4 games in a row.
Insane, dude. Insane.
That is nuts. Man.
On to the Vegas game.
Yes.
more of the same from the Dallas game. The new lines which were working well against Colorado didn't work so well against Vegas. They had what 24 shots in the entire game, and I think a lot of those came in like the latter half of the third period. At what 16 through 2.
I think even less, to be honest.
Yeah, not a good night. Capped off by Jack Eichel. Beautiful assist on Mark Stone's goal, and was set up. I think it might have been by Mark Stone. In the slot, he gets a free shot on James Reimer, and that went in the net. Just the cold-hearted dagger to put the Sabres down 3-0, and ending that game, even though the Sabres would, surprise, surprise, get a goal from Jason Zucker late. They end their road trip by losing 3-1 to Vegas.
They got to extend that man immediately somehow. He's not going to. He's going to walk away. But I will say, he seems like, first of all, A, seems like a nice guy. That's a plus. B, you see him in post-game interviews. He's very well spoken. He seems like he really cares about what the locker room is. He seems to really like all the guys that are around. I mean, I get it that they're not winning, but it's like you don't want to let the best free agent signing in team history just walk right out the door. You want to try and get him here for at least another couple of years. Like, would you be willing to overpay him?
You have to.
On
you
like
literally
a 3-year deal?
You
would you give him a 3
to.
by 6.5?
You literally
say,
have to, and I still don't think he would do it.
My counterpoint now is we debatably overpaid for him going into this. We paid him $5 million. He's having an amazing year. How much are we gonna have to pay him now? Like $7 million, $8 million?
It's Jeff Skinner all over again.
I think you would have to go like a 3 by 7 to get him to stay here at this point. Like maybe
short term.
Maybe he probably does. He's gonna cool off a little bit, so maybe you temper the flares just a tad. But yeah, man, like now he's gonna be on everybody's trade boards heading into the trade deadline.
Yeah,
and like top 10.
You gotta, hey, if you want him to stay around, you gotta prove it to this organization. You gotta prove that this organization wants a proven winner. They're gonna have to prove to him that this organization is gonna be set up to win. And considering the shit show that Terry Pegula runs around this place, I'm sure Jason Zucker's a smart enough man to realize that is it going to change? Probably not. So you want to make your bag and just, hang out here for a few years and maybe we figure it out? Get on the roller coaster. I don't know.
You watch what you're saying about my Terry Pegula.
Shut up, Jerry.
The only scenario that I could see Zucker staying is if like teams just are like, hey, like you're 32, we're not going to play you on our first line. We're not going to give you the payday that maybe you're seeking. And Buffalo's offer is still there, whatever it is. They might not even entertain a raise. They might just say like, hey, we can give you the same contract again. Because who knows what they're thinking here. But like, you don't have the luxury of going after many guys like Zucker and it ending up working out well, because you've done some Zucker contracts even in the past few seasons. I mean, even like Eric Johnson was supposed to be like a Zucker type thing, and like that fell apart. And the Taylor Hall thing was basically Zucker all over again, and that fell apart. So to have somebody who's been around the block, played for so many teams at this point in his career, played for winning teams, and if he were to stay here, like it would be something. It would be like a building block that like, hey, you can come here and do well as a vet. It's just, I don't know. I don't have faith that they're going to get it done. I don't have faith that Zucker is going to look around at this absolute mess, this travesty that he walked into where, I don't know, half the core might be gone. The head coach, even if he stays, is going to be a lame duck. And it's just the burden of a going to be soon to be 14-year playoff drought. I just like, if I was Jason Zucker, or if I was his agent, I would be like, you don't want to stay. Like, this worked out perfectly for you. You got your payday here. You thrived, upped your value for 2025 free agency. Go sign with a contender, even if it's only for like $2.5 million.
The Sabres have a knack for either having guys on their roster who have career years and have no extension in place, are on the downslope of their career and they fall off, or they're not in their prime yet and they haven't broken out yet. Either way, none of them never work out. And then they go somewhere else, and what do you know?
You think about like all the guys with contract years, not just Jason Zucker. You think like Jack Quinn, JJ Paterka, even Devin Levi.
Mm,
You'd think that, being in a contract year, you get a little bit more juice out of them, and it's not going well. And that
nope.
I think that's like one of the most worrying parts about where they're at. It's that like even JJ Paterka, who, was dynamite last season, started this season on fire again, has been lumped. I think you can lump him into that group with Quinn and Cousins and even Owen Power is one of the Sabres' worst players in goals above replacement. And that was like his thing the last 2 years. That he was always at the top, even if the point totals were huge, and even if the expected numbers weren't out of this world. His goals above his GAR was better than the majority of the roster, and even that's down. And that's like the really worrying part of where this coaching staff is at. All your young guys have regressed, every single one. The only guys having a bounce back or return to form or even just having a good season, it's, Tage Thompson's been better than last year. Dahlin's still doing his thing. Obviously, Jason Zucker has come in and been amazing. Like maybe you can throw Alex Tuck in that group.
Benson and Byram, I would say.
Yeah, Byram and Benson and Byram, but like Benson, I feel like is just like he's a cheat code. Like he can play anywhere, any style.
Connor Clifton having a better year.
And Jonah does not say anything. He does not want to admit that.
His eyes rolled right away.
I mean, he was better than last season. You could say that.
All of your important young pieces have taken steps back. And I did not want to legitimately cast Lindy as the coach that's like bad to young players because that's a reputation he has. And I don't even think that's the case because, he has a lot of trust in Zach Benson and Yuri Kulik. I don't think it's that. Like, I don't think he hates young players. He just, for whatever reason, whatever he's doing with the roster, it's not working for their most important guys. As much as I love Yuri Kulik and Zach Benson, right now, Cousins, Power, Paterka, Quinn, like those were supposed to be part of your core, and they're all sort of on a downward swing, which is just it's bad, man. Like that's not a good, as much as this season could go, if this season went south because of the goaltending or maybe, bad defense, whatever. Like you can't have all of those guys at once regressing.
Yeah. Rumor has it some of them might get shipped out to the West Coast. Perhaps. But yeah, it's not really the culture you want to build with a young team that's consistently regressing game in, game out. And it seems like over a 3-year sample size, it's just been a complete downward trajectory. And it sucks to watch. It really does. After going through the entire Eichel core and all those guys and that not working out, you really thought, hey, what are the odds they get it wrong twice? Well, it's starting to look more and more like they may have signed some of the wrong guys to contracts.
Yeah, it's crazy how wrong I was. Like everybody was on the Paterka extension train, and that's proven to be a blessing in disguise that they haven't done that. But me, like I was through and through, like get the Quinn extension done. Just do it. His value will never be lower.
It
got lower.
It got lower.
It got lower. It's
Bro's gonna be making league min next year.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll raise my hand. Dead wrong about that. It's good that they didn't do that. At the same time, like just so many guys that it should not have gone this wrong for, and yet here we are.
Imagine they sign them all in the offseason and they get to the cap. They're like, no, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant. We don't want to be at the cap this way.
All right. Before we get off of Sabres talk for this episode, it's America's favorite segment. The concernometer. So we saw a dip in it last episode. Christian was at an 8, I believe. I was at a 7. JP was back down to a 1.5. How are we feeling with the concernometer this time around, guys?
I'm gonna have to retire the bid for now until they show me something because
They got a loser point. They got a
they
loser point.
they did get a loser point, but I don't feel any good about this team right now. So I'll continue the bid a little. I'll go to a 9.5. Not gonna
Is
go
it-
to a full 10.
I'm gonna cancel JP out. Could I go 10.5?
Yeah, that works.
Perfect. Okay, so we could have an average of 10 because I know Jonah's gonna go with a 10, right?
I am going with a 9.99.
All right, well,
Nice.
give me
The soul-
10.7.
The soul saving grace, the one bit of hope I have, rests in Vancouver currently. So I'm hanging on to that shred of hope.
Guys, it's not happening. Stop, please. Kevin Adams has not proven himself to make okay, it's funny because when he makes trades, they're usually fine, but he just doesn't make the blockbuster move ever.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
like
but there hasn't been a player like this available.
that too, and also I don't like that he's not willing to do it. He's willing to do it. He just doesn't end up doing it. And I feel like some people might cast that as the same thing. I don't, because like if the Pettersson thing doesn't get done, guys owed $10 million on July 1st. Like I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna act like that doesn't, matter. But he had a trade for Natchez seemingly lined up. He gave Arizona the same offer as Ottawa for Jacob Chikrin. Like, I don't know. I don't want I don't want to defend him. I really don't. I just want to keep the dream alive. That's all.
I love it. I really do. And I want to keep the dream alive too, but let me start you here. Is this an off-season trade?
I
Or
don't
is
know
this an
anymore.
in-season trade?
I think it's an in-season because literally, I was thinking this that this was probably just going to drag out. If Vancouver misses the playoffs, which could happen, he's definitely gone, or Miller's definitely gone, or somebody's maybe they'll let Brock Besser walk to free agency. But now, like, this is so public, and then now you have the biggest insider in hockey, Friedman, going on Hockey Night in Canada, talking about this is what they're targeting in a trade. Like, this is an in-season possibility, but I don't want to get there quite yet because I want to break down the whole situation. And
I was gonna say,
I do want to touch on some smaller things first before we get there.
I was gonna say, could you because I haven't kept up with like the actual drama of what's going on. I know that there's some sort of rift,
There's a lot to unpack.
but like I need this unpacked. So if you want, the floor is all yours. So
Before we get into that, we'll touch on two things. So one, the Rochester Americans are still killing. I don't think they've lost a game since our last episode.
wow, it'd be so nice if that could be happening about 50 miles down the 90 the other direction.
They have 15. They are 15, 4-2 on the road, something like that. They have more wins on the road than the Sabres do, period.
Good for them. Round of applause. Round of applause. Good for them.
Mind
Not
you,
even
like,
gonna hate.
JP and I talked about this last episode. Like they're doing this without Hellenius, without Wahlberg. It's going really well. Novikov. Everybody's talking about his plus minus differential, which is not my favorite stat, but I think given he has 2 seasons in a row now of like really being on the better end of 5v5 goal differential, that's really encouraging to see. It's good stuff. At least the farm. Carmanos, maybe the future GM. At least his pet project is killing it.
What if we just swapped rosters? What if we just swapped whole rosters? Just put all these guys down in the AHL, bring them up.
Look, man, it doesn't
see
matter
what happens.
it doesn't matter who dons the crest. When they put that jersey on, it's like Michael Jordan in Space Jam. His powers are sucked right out of him. It's not good.
And you asshole, they made a trade and you tweet that from
I
the
hate
account
you for that.
trade, and I'm like, oh my god, I see the notification on my phone, and
I
it was
hate
an
you for that.
AHL trade. I
It's
was like,
not
you gotta be
my
kidding
fault.
me.
Okay, it's not my fault you guys have notifications on.
You douchebag.
Yeah,
Well, we can talk about that too, because I do think there could be something there. So this was Friday afternoon. Uh, the but it's funny how I'm reading the Rochester Americans tweet. It doesn't say we've acquired. It says the Buffalo Sabres have traded Colton Poolman to the Wilton-Berry Scranton Penguins for forward Bennett MacArthur. And then additionally, this is where they say we have acquired forward Jagger Joshua from Wilkes-Barre Scranton in exchange for future considerations. So there's your big in-season trade.
Tremendous.
I did think it was interesting because like the Rochester's D depth isn't anything to write home about. I mean, you got Ryan Johnson, Novikov, Komarov, like Cal Clegg, and like they've got 6 guys, but Pullman was somebody that Metza, yeah, but Pullman was somebody they brought in this summer. Jack Rathbone's another guy, so like they had, I guess, an extra D to try and ship out, but like bringing in 2 forwards now in a pretty crowded room already, and Hellenius and Wahlberg aren't even playing right now. I don't know. It could be something. Maybe they just end up sending a few guys down to Jacksonville. But it did raise my eyebrow a little bit that they acquired 2 forwards and 2 separate. Like this wasn't one big deal either. That's the weird thing. I don't know if it's maybe just because Pullman was signed to a 2-way deal and not a strictly AHL deal. I don't know. I think he was signed to a 2-way deal. So, I don't know. Interesting stuff. In-season trades are always fun, right? Doesn't
just the best.
it made your heart skip a beat.
I saw the trade notification. I was just like, oh boy, what is this? And then I opened up my phone. I'm just like, what the hell, man? Come on.
That's my
I thought
bad.
it was finally going to be the trade with the Red Wings, but that smoke seems to be completely gone now.
Yeah,
There hasn't been
completely
anything about
gone.
it since
No.
before New Year's, at least.
If there's one thing that this organization is good at is creating smoke for something that they're not gonna do.
I will that's my bad. I'll be better in future trade posts.
You, have we ever
So,
broken anything live on the
just
podcast before?
We haven't.
No.
We're still waiting for that moment.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting for that moment, man. I'm just like staring at my phone, like, just break the trade, just
Well-
as something. It'd be legendary.
Well, the Bronco or not the Patriots fired their head coach. So
Oh yeah,
there's
that
a little
was
bit of
during this
breaking
pod,
news.
yeah.
There you go.
they didn't even let Bro get home. They just fired his ass right in the
They were
locker
so.
room.
Do you think they told him before or after the game? Like did he? Because there's 2 equally funny scenarios. They tell him before the game, "Hey, this is your last game. You're gonna be fired." He goes out there and screws the franchise over by winning, or do they fire him after, where he won the game and they were so pissed they fired him immediately?
I thought I saw someone said he was laughing on the sidelines towards the end of the game. So, I mean,
Maybe
that
he
was the
knew.
same thing with
They
Lovie
had to have
Smith
let him
with
know.
the Texans.
Mhm.
They won, and then they lost the first overall pick, and they ended up getting the second pick with C.J. Stroud, but then he got fired right away. So, it was probably gonna happen no matter what, but it is hilarious.
There was smoke before that happened. I think the
Yeah.
writing was on the wall. And it was 1 year though. That's what baffles me. It's like I don't understand that at all. Was it really were the
Yeah.
expectations that high?
It was bad for them. It was a bad year. I just think it's funny. It was literally an hour and 15 minutes after the game, and he's gone.
Can I tell you something else funny that just happened, JP?
What?
Trey McBride has his second touchdown reception of the season.
I told you he was going to score touchdowns after you're eliminated.
For anybody that doesn't know, the 3 of us are in a deeply competitive fantasy football league, and Trey McBride went the whole season without a touchdown reception. He had 1 touchdown. It was on a fumble recovery, and I ended up losing in the first round in the playoffs this year. And the next week, he got his first reception, and now he got his second. So I'm a little
Salty.
peeved. Little peeved.
Little salty,
Little
yeah.
peeved. Anyways, back to hockey talk. The gold medal game for the World Juniors is set for, the puck drop is in about an hour and a half. And the USA is going for two consecutive gold medals here against Finland. So it'll be
Mm.
a good old Konsta Helenius versus Brody Ziemer and Adam Kleber. So stuff to watch on both sides. And JP and I talked a little bit about it last episode, how Helenius was kind of quiet. Still was quiet because I don't know if he's scored since, but he had 3 assists versus,
I think he was
they
given
credit him
4.
with 4.
Yeah.
I think he only had 3. I don't know if it stuck with him, but he had at least 3 assists in Finland's big upset of Sweden in the semifinals. So that was awesome to see. Awesome to see.
Mhm.
And Ziemer and Kleber have been really, really. I mean, Kleber was scratched for the first game in the round robin, and I don't think he's sat since. And Ziemer's just got that dog in him, man. Like I think he's an NHL guy.
Future captain of the Buffalo Sabres, Brody Ziemer, goes for a gold medal tonight. I can't wait to clip that in 3. No, that can't be 3 years. I can't wait to clip that in like
If he becomes
8 years.
captain of the Buffalo Sabres in 3 years,
Not 3 years.
where is that team? Like, where are they currently in the standings?
Well, it's either he completely broke out, or we've just
And
still
we
haven't made
traded
the
Dolly.
playoffs.
or Jerry
Yeah.
Fortin was named GM and was
Oh,
like, "This kid's got
no.
the leadership. We're putting the C on him."
Oh no. Man. Sabres are just wasting their 2 superstars on the front and the back end.
So this is always an interesting conversation that I always have to have. So like yes, if it was US versus Canada, no Sabres prospects involved, like I'm rooting for the US.
Mhm.
Like when it's like I remember it was during the COVID World Juniors, which is like just one of the most memorable ones I can remember in recent memory. Like when it was Cousins and Quinn versus just Ryan Johnson in the finals. I was kind of rooting not for Canada. I'm rooting for the prospects. Like, are you guys the same way?
I don't think Christian was. I remember that because he was
Mhm.
upset with us. But that's how I am. I'll root for all
Really?
prospects.
I don't remember that far back to like us talking about that. Obviously, that was before this podcast started, but no, yeah, if you know me, I wouldn't have rooted for Canada. I had red, white, and blue all
I didn't
day.
feel good about it back then. That might have been the only time, just because it was Cousins and Quinn, and that might have been the only time where like I didn't. And America still won, so I didn't.
Mm.
There you go. But
Could you believe it, fellas? It's 2025. We started this podcast in 2022, almost 3 years ago. Doesn't the time fly when you have a good hockey team?
the 1 year flew by because they were good.
Yeah.
These last 2 years, I don't know.
Taking a few decades off my life.
Just a little bit. Why don't we talk about Canada? So
Here we go.
JP and I talked last time because we did talk about it, right? Because the Latvia upset did happen. So that was incredible. The next game they played Germany, only scored 2 goals, I think. Maybe they got an empty netter, but that was another game where it's like they are not looking too hot. And then New Year's Eve they lose 3-1 versus the Americans. And then in the quarterfinals, they lose 4-3 to Czechia and are gone for the second consecutive year. No medal for that team, and just all of people's doubts from when the picks for that roster were made just came to fruition, and it's glorious, man. It really is. I know I was just talking on a roof for countries, but it's still Canada. It still feels
Yeah.
good to see their downfall.
I guess we have our pick for this team. This team stinks, but I want to say
I like that.
this,
Yeah, let's do it. This team
staff,
stinks this week is Hockey Canada.
I was gonna pin it more on just like the front office. They stink double.
So
Like,
bad, dude.
so bad. Like just you got Parak just chilling at home, tweeting at you, saying like, I should have been doing something, but I can't seem to figure out what it was. It's like while you're getting beat by Latvia in the in the round robin. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, they didn't. Andrew Crystal is leading the CHL in points right now. Didn't take him. Yakum, one of Yakimchuk or Perek were like CHL Defenseman of the Year. I think was it Beckett Seneke? He led the WHL in points last year. I don't know. This is all. This is all
Third
like,
overall pick.
yeah, just all of these guys that just, and it's not even. It's like I said. Like this isn't like if they didn't, not taking Michael Misa. Okay, fine, I get it. He's draft eligible this year. He's younger than a lot of guys on that roster. Sure. Even if they didn't take Gavin McKenna, who I didn't even think was that good this tournament, or even if they didn't take Porter Martone, like if you didn't want to take the draft eligibles, fine. But like Perek, Yakimchuk, Seneke, Crystal, like all of these guys were drafted. They're not young, super unexperienced, and they're all killing it. Like nobody was having a bad year. Like they galaxy brained the hell out of this and just were completely shown to be like they were thought they were like
Frauds.
yeah.
Just fraudulent.
They were watching Miracle and thought they could replicate not
You
building the
can't
best
create that
team.
magic.
They tried to replicate not building the best team. They wanted to build a right team.
I ain't looking
And
for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones. As everyone else at the table just looks at him like, "What are you talking about,
it's
bro?"
like the reverse Moneyball scene, where it's like it's like all the scouts are talking about these guys killing it, having amazing stats, and just Brad Pitt being like, "But does he hit?"
We could recreate Perek in the aggregate, guys. Don't worry. We can get a bunch of bums off the street. Can they replicate the same amount of points?
And I feel bad for some of
Yes.
the like I feel bad for Easton Cohen. Like he did not ask.
Oh my
He
God.
did like he did not. He was pretty bad this tournament. He had some bad moments. I still can't believe. I think it was Porter Martone. He looked off on that 2-on-0. I he had some bad moments. He was not great, and the shootout attempt was probably the funniest of all of them. But
That was
like,
like an
dude,
NHL 25 shootout attempt.
he did not ask for that management group to set him up for disaster.
Because the Canadian fans are like going crazy at him now. Like it's kind of sad actually. Like he's a
It's because
kid.
he's a Leafs prospect is part of it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's pretty sad.
yeah, it's bad. People were storming the comments of their social medias. You never want to see that. A jersey was thrown on the ice after they were eliminated. That was actually pretty funny. All of this going down in Ottawa, in the nation's capital. It's just the cherry on top.
Speaking of stormings and Capitals, the Buffalo Sabres play the Washington Capitals tomorrow at 7:30, or is it 7? One of the two.
That is
Alex
correct.
Ovechkin, will he score? We don't
Oh my
know.
God, that was the ultimate. That was the ultimate. Uh, D Wade and LeBron photo meme. I just laid that one up for you.
Couldn't have been any easier.
So,
Come on, man. That's too easy.
I think the one thing that will stink about looking back on this year and just how funny it was that they failed so badly is that they will probably learn their lesson next year and they will probably bring the most. It will be a pretty stacked team.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy. Zach Benson could have played on that roster.
Well, he's got bigger and better things to attend
Oh,
to,
that's
as
right.
in attending the tire fire that is this team.
All right, final prediction. Who's taking home the gold? Is it the U.S.?
U.S.,
Is it
of
Finland?
course.
Team of Destiny?
USA, baby. All the way. Red, white, and blue.
I think it would be their first time winning back to back ever, which is
Really?
nuts. Yeah, they've never done it.
I got a notification on my phone 8 years ago today. The Tage Thompson World Juniors happened and they won the gold medal.
Oh, that was such a good game. I couldn't watch that. I think I had hockey that night, and I think by the time I might have no, I think I just got home. By the time I got home, I saw the celebration. Yeah, dude,
Hmm.
that was electric. Such an electric comeback.
They're going to recreate it tonight.
I got the memory the other day of the outdoor game.
Yeah, that was crazy. I had to leave that game early, which sucked because the Canadian fans in front of us were just obliterated and yelling the
You
whole
left
time.
that game early?
I had to. I had a death in the family, so I
Oh,
had to go to his wake. So we knew beforehand that we were gonna have to leave early. And I was just like, this kind of like respect, got to do it. But it's like, damn, missed a comeback. That would have been really funny to be like sitting up there and watching you get to yell back at the Canadian fans as they were yelling at you.
That was the day I thought Casey Middlestat was truly a better prospect than Elias Pettersson. I was a
Uh,
proud member of that club. That was a movement that existed in 2018. I was a proud member.
how wrong we were.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was just an Adam Fox, Brady Kachuk merchant the whole time.
Thank God Elias Pettersson is going to be a Buffalo Sabre. Completely contradicting what I said earlier in the podcast.
I still remember them walk at the outdoor game, them walking off the ice. Or there was the video afterwards, and I think it was Brady Kachuk just screaming Bills Mafia walking off, and I thought it was destiny. I thought that guy was destined to be a Sabre.
Nope. The
Fun
Senators,
memories. That game
the
was
Senators made a reach.
that game was terrible for me. I sat in the nosebleeds.
So did I.
Yeah, and
I was in hundreds.
yeah, dude. And it was funny. I got asked by two different people to go, and my buddy who asked me first invited me to the nosebleeds, and my other buddy who asked me second sat in the 100s in the heated section, and I'd
Or in
already
the
said
200s.
yes.
But yeah.
Yeah,
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 I was
200s.
I was in the hundreds with our friend from the pod, Derek. It was fun. It was a incredible
That
game.
was a blast. That might be the best game I've ever been to. But I remember in the third period, I was putting hand warmers in my boots because my toes were so cold, and I was walking back and forth between my seat and the bathroom to warm up.
Yeah. We
Saw
need
every
a-
goal though.
We need another Winter Classic game back soon.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Speaking of outdoor games, let's hop into some NHL news. So it came out the other day. First of all, did you guys watch the Winter Classic, which was on New Year's Eve this year?
Nope.
People work. It
I
was
was at
on
work.
while people were working. What are they doing?
Well, it started at 5 o'clock, so most people would have been getting right out. But yeah, isn't it so weird how like I think we discussed this previously, but like the NHL lost their holiday.
Yeah.
Like New Year's Day, that was the thing forever. You turn on the television at 1 o'clock, taking down the Christmas decorations, and there's an outdoor NHL game.
The Winter Classic is on,
And the worst part, okay, because it came out a few days ago that the viewership for that Chicago St. Louis Winter Classic was the lowest of all time for Winter Classics, not even reaching 1 million viewers.
That's crazy. Like someone's got to get on the NHL about this marketing thing because it's going on like plenty of years now where it's just they don't market certain games enough. Like they don't run enough advertising for them. Like half the time, like I see maybe an ad earlier in the year saying, "Oh, there's an outdoor game this time," and I don't know it's on until after it's passed by like a day.
Here, I will agree with you because I don't have faith they would do so anyways. How do you market that matchup?
I was just gonna say the matchups have sucked.
I don't know. You get Keith Kachuk and JR. I don't know. Maybe doing some funny comedy sketch. I don't know. You're right. There's no. What do? Go back to like 2016 and bring out like the old like Kane and Taze and then the Blues. I don't know. There really is no like. Is that even a rivalry?
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
Chicago
it's
and St.
not.
Louis. Not anymore, not today, but like if this was like if this was 7-8 years ago when they were seeing each other in the playoffs every year, yeah, definitely. But yeah, like the matchup sucks. The only thing you can really market is Bedard.
And yeah, you got the actual dead last team in the
Exactly.
league
It's like
against a mid team.
like it's like the inverse of, it's the inverse of Buffalo versus Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh was coming off of a Stanley Cup run. Or no, that would have been their first year they went to the finals. But still, like you had Crosby on the come up, and
you had a Sabres team who was making deep runs at the time.
Yeah, and at the very least, you had a venue that you knew Buffalo was going to make memorable, and it's I don't know, they put themselves in a corner because like who thought the Blackhawks were going to be good coming in
Just
to this year?
stop putting them in Winter Classic games. They're 0 and
They don't
5.
they don't have a win.
They've
Yeah,
been in the
why are they in
most
so
Winter
many of
Classic
them?
games. They have the most appearances and have no wins.
Do they have a win in an outdoor game? That's my question.
Unless it's a heritage game, no, I don't know.
Stadium series, I don't know. Have they gone to stadiums? They always get the yeah. You play 5 games and it's so annoying, dude.
Sabres have 3 outdoor games or what? 1-1-1. Yeah. No, 1-0-2. 1-0-2.
Yeah.
They have two overtime / shootout losses, and they have one regulation win against the Toronto Arenas.
But like St. Louis is a weird pick too. Like I don't know, it's just bad. Like then like even at least Chicago, St. Louis, historic rivals. There's something there, but like most years that's just not the case. I mean,
No.
with 2 years ago it was I don't remember I don't remember last year's. What was last year's?
I just looked up all of them.
Wasn't
Last
it
year
Was it
Vegas?
Seattle,
Seattle?
Vegas?
Kraken. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a solid one. Expansion
was
teams.
fine.
You can market that. But the year before was Boston and Pittsburgh, which yeah,
Yep.
good teams, but like you've seen them a million times. 2022,
St. Louis, Minnesota.
okay, again, sort of historic rivals, but that's kind of boring for a Winter Classic pick. There wasn't one in 2021. 2020,
2020 Dallas,
the-
Nashville.
Yep. Okay, same thing. Like
Corey Perry leaves 3 minutes into the game.
it was a very
Walks
legendary
down the-
moment. Very legendary
was-
moment.
Right before the world shut down, he just walked out.
I mean, 2019 wasn't it Boston again?
Boston, Chicago.
2018 was man. Now I'm really.
Us and the
Sabres,
Rangers.
Rangers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sabres, Rangers. But like even it's not like yeah. Buffalo should be in the 10th. Like Buffalo should probably get every anniversary game. But still, it's
Sabres
like,
legend Matt Tennyson ruins my New Year's Day in 2018. I
we-
hate that guy.
we
I will
thought-
always hate that guy.
we thought Buffalo sports were back because the Bills had just broken the drought 24 hours before, and then you had to wake up and watch that disaster. Like it's just bad matchups, Like they had at least they're having the proposed good idea of Ovi versus Crosby one last time. They should definitely do that.
Mhm.
But like next year it's both Florida teams are supposedly gonna host their own. No, have them play each other. Like that's part of the issue here. Like, okay, I'm also a bit of this is my hot take. The Winter Classic should be in a winter climate. Every year.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's
100% agree with
that's
that.
the spectacle.
Keep it in the
because-
Northeast in Canada.
Like you think about think about football. Which football games are always like talked about the most? It's snow games because it changes the aesthetic. You never see it. You don't get snow baseball games. Snow, like or at least soccer's not played in the snow. Baseball's not played in the snow. Football is, but it only happens in the back half of the season. It's like hockey. That's part of like the spectacle of the Winter Classic. That's what makes the first Buffalo game so memorable. That's what made the World Juniors game so memorable. It's
Mhm.
like you're watching. It's like yeah, you can barely see it on TV at points, but like that's what's so awesome.
The mystique.
And it's like I remember that 2018 Sabres Rangers Winter Classic. The first period and a half the ice is in sunlight, the other's covered in darkness, and it's terrible.
And we're watching from an aerial cam
That
that's just
too,
all
like,
over
oh
the
my-
ice.
They need to stop. The aerial cam is awful. It's nobody cares. Like I know you're having fun with like probably a higher budget, but it's so bad. Like the World Junior game, they didn't have that, and the first Buffalo Pittsburgh game, they obviously didn't have it. It's like just keep it on a normal angle. It's like it ruins it for nobody likes that.
It's like when that a rare occasion where there's a face-off in one of the offensive zones, and then the offensive team wins it back, and then it's that camera from behind the net. You're just watching from behind it. It's like, could you please change it real quick?
I don't know. Like
I don't want to watch that.
I don't know. Like I'm sure. Like I said, like technical directors, like they probably love to play with all these new toys that they were given for this national broadcast, but it's like it's bad. Please don't do it. So the topic was sort of floated around on Twitter. What do you do to fix the Winter Classic? Like we've already touched on a few. Like I would prefer it's in a winter location, better matchups. Is there anything else like you would do to fix it?
Market it better. Maybe get some cooler venues. I get the big stadium spectacle is what you want for monetary reasons, but I don't know, maybe like throw a curveball in there, get a little more creative with where you set up for the game. I mean,
Well,
the
they
Lake
did
Tahoe
that
game
with
was pretty
yeah.
cool.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like
Just
Bettman just keeps digging himself another hole with every sort of idea he
Well,
pitches.
we also haven't brought up the obvious one. There should be one a year.
well, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Or you do one on like New Year's Eve and you do one on New Year's Day. I don't think that would be a bad idea.
Just it's got to be a New Year's Day. Like even I was looking at Wikipedia, I was looking at all of the list of all of them, and there's like a note under all of the matchups saying starting in 2025 they'll all be on New Year's Eve. Like that is the main reason why it's doing so bad. Like why is it on New Year's Eve? Make it a New
No,
Year's Day when everybody's relaxing for the day. Not many people work on New Year's Day.
Everybody's
Uh,
hungover.
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. No one wants to watch a game on New Year's Eve. Like that's for college football most of the time. It's like you're out, like TV households, they're going to be tuned to like ABC, CNN watching or whatever else network watching like the ball drop coverage. Who's going to watch the hockey game? Do it the next day.
Or like at the very least, make it the only NHL game that day. There were every team, I think, except two, played on New Year's Eve.
That's a great
And
point
the
too.
Chicago St. Louis was at the it was it had its own slot. Nobody was playing at the same time, but still it was at 5 o'clock. Really weird time. And the next day, there was one game at 5 o'clock. Or it was like 5 or 6 o'clock on um, a Wednesday. It was New Jersey versus the LA versus LA. And that was it. That was the only game. Like, what are you like? What are you thinking? Like, who planned that out? Just dumb decision making.
Galaxy brained it.
I don't know. Hopefully they'll figure it out. Hopefully, I don't know. Seems like they're dead set on this Florida matchup idea, which I'm just not looking forward to. But all right, moving on. Let's get into the main course of NHL discussion. So, as we alluded to earlier, Elliot Friedman goes on Hockey Night in Canada, Saturday headlines, and kind of breaks the door open on the entire Pettersson and JT Miller thing. The cliff notes from that being that the Canucks are definitely listening on both Miller and Pettersson, and any three scenarios can happen where Miller is traded, Pettersson is traded, or both are traded, and they are prioritizing a center as the main piece in return. He doesn't believe either has asked specifically for a trade. All outcomes are still possible.
Dylan Cousins, come on down. There's your
The,
center in return.
so Christian asked for a bit of a deeper explanation, and Canucks West Coast team, late night West Coast team. It's probably not. Maybe some people have been following it as closely. I've been following it closely because I've always wanted, Pettersson to be on my hockey team. So this all starts, I think, around the time. And look, I'm not a Vancouver fan, so they would probably know more than myself. But this all starts around the time that Bo Horvat was still on the team and needed a new contract. And Miller was also going into the same summer, also needing a new contract. And it was that year they had that bad start. Bruce Boudreau was fired. They brought in Rick Tocchet, and then they started to win more games. I think I'm getting the timeline right. The locker room was split between Horvat, who was the captain, JT Miller, who was he's a very emotional leader, as we've seen. And to make a long story short, the team chose JT Miller. Obviously, Bo Horvat was traded to the New York Islanders, and it seemed as if it was now JT Miller's locker room. So, fast forward a little bit, we get some word behind the scenes that history's kind of repeating itself. Miller and Pettersson really aren't. It doesn't seem like they're on the same page either. Pettersson is like a very quiet guy, very quiet. Not very outspoken. That's why he was never chosen to be the captain of the team. Just likes to beat to his own drum, I guess. And JT Miller is like the ultimate antithesis, where he is constantly screaming at his teammates, trying to motivate them in that sort of fashion. And it's just two personalities that do not mix, especially because supposedly Miller gets on Pettersson a lot of the time as well. And this issue seemingly, came at a time last year when Pettersson didn't have a contract and Pettersson was going back and forth with the organization about an extension. Obviously, they would get a deal hammered out. And, the Canucks have a pretty successful playoff run, win the first round against Nashville, take the Oilers to 7. And people thought that was done, that was the end of it. Pettersson and Miller had put their differences aside. The team was performing well. Quinn Hughes had been named captain. Everything was fine. And then this season, just the issues have not gone away. Apparently, the two of them were told prior to the season to figure it out. Didn't happen. And now it's like the media has gotten a hold of this whole thing. And, it doesn't help Pettersson's not performing to the level that he has been in the past. And even Miller has been, he's not on that dynamite point per game plus pace that he was on in prior seasons. And the team is starting to fade a little bit. Like I don't even know if they're in a wild card spot right now. So that's kind of like the basic cliff notes of like what I've seen. So it's basically, you got JT Miller, who's this emotional leader, screaming at his teammates, always trying to, he's the Herb Brooks of the locker room. And Pettersson's just a total quiet guy in the corner, just wants to do his own thing. And now you have Elliot Friedman going out on Hockey Night in Canada, laying it all out there that the Canucks are they're looking for trade pieces. Like, it's gotten to that point. And it's crazy because like we were saying earlier in the episode, like I never thought this was an in-season possibility. Now I do. Now I think it's possible one or both could get moved in season.
He doesn't have trade protection either.
That's the other thing too, because Miller, like, it's crazy to me in a sense that they're thinking about which player to choose. But at the same time, Miller has a no-move clause, and you have to change something. And even then, Pettersson's not having his best year. Just a very weird situation.
To add on, I saw this. This was earlier this week. Former Canuck Brad Richardson, who played with both Miller and Pettersson. He was on some podcast, and he basically said that he told JT Miller, "You're too hard on this kid. You're going to lose him." And that's at least from everything I've seen, that seems to be the issue. That JT Miller is just too hard on Pettersson, and like Jonas said, Pettersson just doesn't respond to that. He's beats to his own drum. So it's just, I just feel like it's ramped up so much in this past week. Like, it was pretty much nothing, and then all of a sudden, like, they're listening to trade offers, basically.
Well, and this is like, all this sort of stems from, it's not the only thing. It's the main thing. But, Pettersson's contract negotiation not being a linear path last year. Like, the organization didn't know if they wanted to sign him long term. And the only reason and Pettersson didn't know if he wanted to stay. And it only ended because the Canucks leaked that they were talking about a Pettersson trade with the Hurricanes. And that was like the last straw. Like, that's a foundation built on shaky ground. And it's like, even if they're trying to do the same here, like if they're trying to get those two to figure it out by putting their names in the trade market, kind of similar to what Chris Drury did with the Rangers core. I mean, I think we saw with the Rangers, like, that doesn't exactly work well a lot of the time. Like, that can just mess up chemistry even more. So, yeah, it's weird. And, it sucks for the Canucks, Canucks fans, but if you're the Buffalo Sabres, if Elias Pettersson is truly on the trade market, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like this is something you have to jump on.
We've
You got to
said,
go after it, man.
I think last offseason, even 2 off seasons ago, we've always said like there's going to be one big move that we'll have to make to change us from a playoff team to a contender. And that was obviously assuming we were a playoff team. We're not. But we needed to make one big move to put us in that top tier of teams. I mean, think about Vegas. They were a playoff team. Then they got Eichel, won the Stanley Cup. Florida, they're a playoff team who were dynamite in the regular season, but couldn't do anything in the playoffs. They get Matthew Tkachuk. Like that, we've been saying that for a little bit, that we were going to have to make one big move. And I know in the back of our minds, this was always the move we were thinking, just because Jonah's been on this for probably 5 years now.
It was one of our first episodes we ever did because we started in 2022. The Canucks had that horrible start to that season. And I remember talking with Christian, like, hey, Pettersson's an RFA after next season. Like, this lines up pretty well with the Sabres timeline. And, you know, it wasn't that contract situation that motivated this, but here we are. It was always a move that just sort of made sense. Because as much as I love Tage Thompson and, you know, Dylan Cousins was always supposed to be more like, this is, when he is at the top of his game, a potential top 5 center in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had, I believe, I had his stats pulled up earlier. Where is it? He had,
Imagine a center spine of Pettersson, Thompson, Kulik, McLeod. Not bad.
You don't even have to imagine like the last 2. You know, you have Pettersson and Thompson. That's a luxury that other teams just do not have.
It saves money too. If you get rid of Cousins, you don't have to pay Byram because he'll probably go back in the trade. I mean,
those 2 combined right now are less than $11.6 million.
and a $10 million signing bonus.
You're talking about like unrealized gains.
fair. All right. Well,
None of those.
you want a winner? You want a winner, Terry?
Are you trying to say I don't want this? I'm just.
Do you want this?
I'm just saying that neither of Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram are due a $10 million signing bonus on July 1st.
Understood. All right, JP. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he had 2 years ago, he had 102 points. I believe that was the year he also got Selke votes. Last year, which like people consider to be a down year for him, he had 89 points still. Like this year, he's not on pace to be a point per game, but he's looking like he's going to be right below that. Like I know, like right now, he's not performing up to his contract. But he should not be compared to like Dylan Cousins, who also isn't performing to his contract. Some of his worst years have been better than Dylan Cousins' best years. Like Pettersson is on a different level than like almost anybody on our team other than Tage and Dahlin. Like this is a move that you have to be all in on. Like this is Jack Eichel trade 2.0 basically.
Especially like where you are currently, you know, like unless you draft him, you don't get the chance to jump on Elias Pettersson level talent very often. Basically ever. You know, especially, you know, his contract is set in stone. No trade clauses are here yet. And you have, like, you are the team in the NHL that can do this. Vancouver doesn't want to get worse with this trade. Like, they will, because it's Elias Pettersson, you know, unless the Sabres were to trade them, Tage, Dahlin, or whatever. Unless that happens, they will get worse with this trade, most likely. Doesn't mean they'll get substantially worse, but they're going to want NHL level talent. And like you look at the other teams that are probably going to be thrown in this conversation. Think the Detroit Red Wings or Chicago's been thrown around.
The Rangers.
The Rangers too. I mean, the Rangers, I feel like that's more of a Miller swap idea for them. Like if we're talking Pettersson destinations, you're thinking of teams like the Sabres who need that big piece and have assets to give up. And the Sabres have the prospect wealth to give up, but they have the NHL pieces to give up, the young NHL pieces to give up. And it's like you can like which team that is looking to add Pettersson, like which team can you not outbid realistically? I don't know if there is one. Like
I don't
maybe
think there is one.
like if Minnesota wanted to get crazy, maybe. Um
Do
still
they really even want to like mess with what they're doing
I mean
now? They should
they
just
don't
stick to the course.
they don't have a Pettersson type center, that's for sure. So like if they wanted to do like Rossi or Joel Eriksson Ek plus I don't know, like Brock Faber, but I don't think they would do
Could
that.
could
You
you
got
imagine
you have
Pedersen and Kaprizov on the same line?
dude, I always thought they were the team that made the most sense for Eichel. Um, like maybe Minnesota could outbid you. Like Detroit, they don't have the NHL level talent, unless they traded Lucas Raymond or Moritz Seider, which I don't think is going to happen. Uh, the Islanders seems like the Canucks like Noah Dobson. So like maybe if you did like a Barzell and Dobson type move, maybe. But even then, I don't know if the Islanders would want to do that. Like it just seems like the Sabres just make the most sense. Even if that hypothetical that I threw out last episode, like if the Canucks came to you and said, "We will trade you Elias Pettersson straight up for Owen Power," like would you do that? It's a
Yes,
tough choice.
I think I would. I originally said no, but yes, now I would.
It's so tough
You
because
get better. You get better in your center spine. Then you
you get
immediately
worse
have
on
to sign
defense
Bowen
though.
Byram.
Exactly, like and then you're giving Bowen Byram like 7 or 8. Like there's a ripple effect, and I don't know if it's good. Um, but it's tough. It just the Sabres have that edge on the rest of the teams, and we know they like Byram. We know they probably like Dylan Cousins. And I don't think it's a mistake that Friedman threw both of their names out there in a hypothetical for Elias Pettersson, and there was no pushback on that. Like, look at what happened with Brady Tkachuk and the Larry Brooks thing with New York. It's like the moment that was put out, insiders seconds later said that's not true.
Immediate pushback.
And I
Yeah.
know Friedman didn't say that was an offer on the table, but there was no pushback on that hypothetical, saying that that's like, that's absurd. That's an insanely Vancouver would never do that, yada yada yada. Like it happened. It got people talking, and since then, Friedman brought up Buffalo as the first team that would be interested in a Pettersson trade on 32 Thoughts. He was talking about destinations, and he was like, we've talked about Buffalo, and there would be other teams. It's like there's a connection here. I would bet they've talked. They've probably had preliminary talks about a trade. It just seems like it just checks the most boxes,
Mhm.
especially what the team needs right now. And like this isn't a perfect move at all. If Pettersson's knee really does continue to be an issue, he said after the playoffs he had tendonitis that he was fighting. Couldn't get surgery on it or didn't need to, and this offseason was very different. He had to work around the injury. And it's probably not a mistake that this has been a down year. His skating statistics are down. Is he in pain while playing? Probably not, but it's probably still an obstacle for him. It's not a slam. It's hard to say that it's not a slam dunk because of who Pettersson is, and even with his knee issue, it's still something that like he's still able to produce. And if you get a healthy Pettersson, like if you traded for Elias Pettersson tomorrow, I don't know if I'm playing him in another game the rest of the season. I'm just like, dude, take the next 8 months off, train. If you can get surgery on it, or if there's something you can do to strengthen it, do that, and we'll see you in October. It's sort of like a Hail Mary play, a sort of a last ditch effort.
Mhm.
You just kind of got to do it, and I think it just lines up. And like I said, who else can outbid you? I don't know if there's another team.
And we do kind of have connections. I mean, Dahlin and Pettersson, both from Swedish. They've played together in the World Juniors, right? They're like, aren't they the same age basically?
Yeah, Pettersson was 2017. Dahlin was 2018. Obviously played in the World Juniors together. They're going to be playing with each other this Four Nations. So, there's that connection. I feel like there's another one. I don't know. See if like Tyler Myers can like sell him on Buffalo or something. I don't know. Do whatever you need to do to convince Pettersson that this is a good. And I know you don't need to convince him. He doesn't have a trade clause, but any bit of sense helps here. Like, there's just no scenario where you shouldn't be like the front runner for this. It just two struggling teams, tied to each other's history. There's interest on both sides. I just like if I see Pettersson go to like another Eastern Conference team, I just can't get. I would never be able to get around that. But at the same time, it's like that signing bonus exists. He's got a big contract. I don't know.
I think the weird part for me for it is that I think it would be crazy if they traded both JT Miller and Pettersson. So I think the organization would basically have to decide between the two. And I understand that like JT Miller is kind of like you said, one of their leaders. He's kind of like a fan favorite. Like I've kind of been on Canucks Twitter recently with this last week, and like
It's very
a lot
split.
of people.
You
Yeah, I was gonna say
love him or you hate him.
it's very split. Like you're right. They either love Miller. Like I just saw someone say you wouldn't have a player like him in the playoffs. And other people, love Pettersson. But it's like Pettersson's 26 and JT Miller's going to be 32 at the end of the season. Like that's the only thing that sticks out to me. I'm like, if they're going to make a big move, why would they get rid of Miller or why would they get rid of Pettersson over Miller? Like if they want a better future, Pettersson has by far he has the longer contract with him. He has the higher potential. Like I just think it would be dumb of them to trade him over Miller. I hope they do. I don't know why they would do that, to be honest.
I think it's funny seeing all the Rangers fans like immediately
Well,
jump on this one and go, "No, this is the foundation shake we need. We could trade Keandre Miller
they're
and
saying
this
Mika.
other guy." It's like, yeah, you want a hot
I mean,
steaming pile of ass
that's a
for
team I could
Elias
maybe
Pettersson?
see. But they don't have this. They don't have the center that they would.
No,
Not for Pettersson at least. Like
They're all saying Mika.
I was
we
gonna
give
say,
you Mika Zibanejad.
Mika for JT like sort of makes sense, but like even like JT is still levels above Mika at this point. And both
Mika's
guys
a
would have
power
to
play
waive.
merchant now.
Yeah, like both guys would have to waive their no move clauses, which is just not going to happen. If Friedman said last night, he said if Vancouver wanted Mika, the trade would be done. Like he would already be on the team.
Hmm.
I think like maybe like there's a Lafreniere, Keandre Miller thing for Pettersson. Even then, like it doesn't feel strong enough. I think they like Braden Schneider because he's a top 4 right-handed defenseman, but I don't know if they like him that much. And like I said, they don't have that center. So I saw this idea floated out there. Demko was injured again the other night. Not long term, but like injuries just kind of seem to follow him around. And like Kevin Lankinen's been a good story, but obviously he's not. You don't want him to be your guy long term. And Arthur Shilov's seems more like a one playoff run type thing. If they were interested in Devin Levi, do you put him in that trade as like the sweetener?
Well, who else would be in the trade in this hypothetical?
Let's say it's Cousins and Byram, and they're like, "We'll do this. We need Devin Levi."
It's a
All
lot.
three of them. If it was like Cousins and Levi, I
We
think
better
I
be
would.
getting one of their top right-handed defensemen back,
Which one?
if that's the case.
What you want? Tyler Myers back? Billy Desharnais?
Yes. Well, I mean, at least give me Desharnais.
I mean, I
Like,
guess, but it's just another Clifton. That's why they need Byram so bad.
That's too much. That's too much, man. I
I
can't
know,
do that.
But like,
in
if
good
that was the
faith.
deal,
If it was just the three of them,
gun to your head, Elias Pettersson is yours if you give up Cousins, Byram, and Levi.
I think you still might have to do it. It
I
seems like a
guess.
lot.
I'm seeing if I can get like Hoglander thrown in there.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, like it's tough. It's tough. That's how you know it's a good trade.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No matter what, you lose 2 NHL players at least, a top prospect, and your first round pick. I feel like.
Yeah, probably. I wish like it stinks. I think Noah Oslin's stock is really going to be down now because he's not really putting up much of any points in the AHL. Maybe Hellenius could be like a prospect thrown in. But even then, like, it would suck to lose him because he's kind of a prospect they don't have, just kind of a, more two-way, quiet type player, playmaker. But at the end of the day, like, it would be Elias Pettersson. So it's tough. It won't be the last bit of mock trades we've thrown around. I cannot wait to listen to 32 Thoughts tomorrow. That should be interesting. So this is definitely not the end of this saga. So should be interesting, and it would be nuts if it was a trade deadline thing. Like, I never thought it was going to happen in season, and now I think the chances are like, it's probably still like 30% it happens in season, but a few days ago I was at like 5%.
Yeah. When is the Four Nations Cup?
Like
February, right? Or no,
February?
they replaced it with the All-Star game.
Yeah, it's like a month and it's like 5 weeks from now.
So how far out is it from the trade
The-
deadline?
The
Probably
deadline-
another
Four
month.
Nations Cup is February 12th.
Right. Yeah. So like 5 weeks from now.
And I know the deadline's in March. I just don't know when.
I saw someone say that there's rumors going around NHL circles that that's when people are going to decide like if they're, playoff contenders or not. So that will kind of be like an arbitrary like trade deadline, or that's when stuff might start to ramp up.
So the tournament will conclude on February 20th, and the trade deadline is on March 7th.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of
About 2
actually
weeks.
does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. We're the next month and a half will probably be pretty slow, but once we get into February, once we get into that tournament, it's going to be an eventful few weeks. If only there were, a few more Sabres to watch, but thinking of one specifically, but
Well, now that Matthews is hurt, it's like, what are they going to do there? Why don't they
he
just put
played last
Thompson in
night
there?
though.
Well, I thought they put him on LTIR.
They put him on LTIR. I think it was retroactive. He played last night.
Oh my God. Give me
Yeah.
a break.
Matthew Nyes had 5 points. Yep.
What the hell?
Yep. All right. I think we've gone long enough for this episode. Hopefully not the last time we talk about Elias Pettersson and the Buffalo Sabres.
There's really only one other thing that I think we should mention. I could not pronounce his name, so someone else say it. The Kings player that was put on waivers, because that would happen between the next time we would record.
Yeah. Arthur Kaliyev put on waivers today. Guy was taken. He was selected after Samuelson? Was that draft? 2018? I think it was after Samuelson. Been a very rocky road with the Kings organization. He hasn't even played a game this year. I don't know if that's because of injury or I would assume it's just because of injury. Placed on waivers today, kind of raised a few eyebrows. Sabres are like 4th in the waiver wire.
Just pick him up.
I don't know.
It seems like he was highly touted.
Well, it was
prior
at one.
to.
It was at one time. Yeah, seems like he was on injured reserve. Yeah, he was injured in training camp.
Some of his analytics do look very good.
I don't know. I mean, if they throw a claim in, whatever. I guess. If that's their big move in season, that would be interesting.
You wanted Elias Pettersson? No, you're getting this guy.
Best we can do is Arthur Kaliyev. Maybe they do it, maybe they don't. I don't know. They're high in the waiver wire for obvious reasons. So I don't know. Guess we'll see. We'll see if somebody else picks them up. I mean, if I was like a tanking team, which I guess the Sabres kind of are, like if I was Chicago, I'd probably throw in a claim.
Yeah, why not? Shake it up a little bit.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at The Sabre Report, also on Instagram, TikTok, and Bluesky at The Sabre Report. If you listen to this on YouTube, thank you very much for listening. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to comment. Tell us what you think about those mock Pettersson trades and what you think about the Sabres as a whole. I highly doubt it's anything positive, but always open to hearing from you. If you want updates for the pod, you can follow us at Sabre Report Pod on Twitter. Go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. They are prepping for a Bills playoff run. The Bills ended their regular season today with a big loss against the New England Patriots, which you might be asking, why is it a big loss? The Patriots winning puts them out of contention for the first overall pick. Doesn't it basically solidify them fourth overall?
Somewhere, but is it fourth or is it like somewhere between second and fourth?
It's fourth.
Oh.
But our friends over at the BST podcast will break down that game, but more specifically are going to be breaking down the Bills' eventual playoff matchup, which I haven't checked the score of the Broncos game.
They're up like 24-0. It's going to be the Broncos.
Okay, so it will be Broncos
31-0.
31-0. Broncos, Bills, first round. Time to demoralize the entire state of Colorado. If the Sabres blow them out, or not the Sabres blow them out, if the Bills blow them out, I will just be posting Zach Benson pictures all night.
I will say, Bo Nix, 26 of 29, 321, 4 touchdowns.
Against a team of scrubs.
Yeah.
And plumbers.
He's coming in hot.
Yeah. I'm not nervous. I think they're like the most ideal matchup for the Bills. Shit, I shouldn't have said that. But TSR Jinx is now on.
Nice
Oh,
job.
no. Okay,
nice
no,
job.
No.
No, it's going to be.
Did we have any funny ones this week? We had one today. I quote tweeted a tweet about all the Bills incentives.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention
bonuses.
that at all. Yeah.
And I tweet out, I said, I need none of these to hit so we can fill up that Pettersson bonus jar. And on the second or third play of the game, Von Miller wins himself $1.5 million.
Yep. 1.65 is going towards the Bills. So that's
it's a bad day for Terry Pagula. It's a bad day for him.
Yeah, it's a bad day for the Sabres.
Did we have any funny ones this week?
I thought we had
TSR
something else.
jinxes?
I don't think so.
Didn't I say something during the Dallas game?
No, I think our one buddy was jinxing it.
No, didn't I say? I said if you pass, because Dylan Cousins at one point.
Oh yeah,
he had a 2-on-1, and he passed it, and it was a missed pass. But he tried passing it to Beck Malenstein. I'm like, why are you passing to Beck Malenstein on a 2-on-1? And Malenstein goes on to score the tying goal in the third period.
Yep, that's
just a classic jinx. Classic.
Mm-hmm. We might have to make that a segment because something happens every week.
Every week. Every week. Yeah, we got to set this episode in stone. If Canada wins the World Juniors next year, this team stinks.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Or if they win 4 nations.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, folks, we won't keep it around any longer. Thank you very much for listening. Take care. Hang in there. And as always, go Sabres.
Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.